There it goes. Whee!
Hopefully I got it labeled right.
Oh, I see something now. I'm seeing.
We are such a weird family.
Speak for
Good, is
yourself.
it?
Look, it's you. Oh!
The nights were long. They were dark. And I liked the darkness because I could just hide. When my brother and I were young, my mom left us. My stepmom is really the only mom that I've ever known. But she was kind of strict. So we'd be horsing around and doing the things that kids do, but you know, we were beaten and kicked and slapped and punched. We were pretty much made prisoners in our own room. We had to go without food and water for days sometimes. There was a point where we were so afraid to come out of our rooms that we were actually urinating, defecating in our own bedroom. We just thought that was normal, you know, that's what went on in everybody's home. I wasn't going to be staying around the house, that's for sure. So I joined the Air Force. When you're smoking pot or drinking or whatever, everybody's your buddy, everybody's your friend, so it was easy to fall into that crowd. I wound up meeting a girl, and if we got married, I got more money on my paycheck. So we got married. We had some friends that were into some sexual experimentation and everything, and we wound up starting to swing with other people. I thought it was great, you know, because I was getting what I wanted. Well, I really didn't care that much about my wife. She wound up getting pregnant, and we had our son, Greg Jr. I wound up leaving my wife and had met another girl. We both worked at the Chico Cinema and the Hollywood Cinema, which were adult movie theaters. We were the projectionists there. My ex moved away and taken my son with her. He used to go to the drop zone with me all the time, but you know, we had our own agenda with our own friends, and he was just kind of the kid along for the ride. Our lives revolved around drugs and alcohol. Now, years later, we started doing some meth. The more of the meth I did, the looser and looser my inhibitions were, and things were just kind of spiraling out of control. And then I got a phone call from the police one day. He told me that my son, who was 22 at the time, had been shot and killed by the police. They'd gotten stopped, routine traffic stop, and he pulled out a gun and shot at the police officer. If the police officer hadn't been wearing a vest, it probably would have killed him because he hit him. I guess we'll never really know all the details, but the fact was he just died on that cold, lonely street there in the middle of the night. Thought he was doing okay. Of course, I asked myself a lot of questions, you know. What if I'd have been a better example? So you'd think that'd be a wake-up call for me. But it wasn't. I just did more dope and I pretty much just wanted to kill myself. So the nights were long, they were dark, and I liked the darkness because I could just hide. My life was just in a shambles. Son was dead. I didn't have anything else. I cried out to God. I said, I can't do this anymore. And so I was looking for a church to get into. I went down the street and there was the Fellowship Bible Church, and I'm like, they'll never accept me in a million years. I went in and somebody came up to me and said, you know, I really appreciate you just being you. That was what I needed to hear that day. I just had so much pain and so much anger, so much hate. But just right there in that moment, it just felt good to have somebody say something nice to me. Shortly after I started going, I started CR up there, Celebrate Recovery. And it felt so good to get it off my chest and for somebody to listen. I'd been off the meth for about 18 months. During that time, I started going out with this gal, and one night after we'd gotten back from a concert, she pulled out some meth and asked me if I wanted some. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And so I was right back to doing it. I quit going to church, quit going to CR because I felt a lot of guilt and a lot of shame getting back on it. A few months later, my girlfriend, she wound up getting pregnant. That was the final straw for me. I just can't have another baby coming into the world and just be around all that. Came clean about the relapse and everything, and nobody condemned me. They just loved on me. She moved out because she wanted to continue doing drugs. I prayed so hard the baby would be okay. We found out it was a little girl, and she was okay. It was very difficult raising a baby. You know, I missed a lot with Greg, but I didn't miss anything with Madison. I was there for her first step, her first tooth, first poop, potty training. You know, there was lots of poop, lots of diapers. I started getting into the leadership of CR, you know, sponsoring other guys and, you know, going through the step studies and things like that, and getting some recovery under my belt, clean and sober, you know, to this day. Met Tammy at church. We wound up getting married. She has just been such a blessing in my life and answered to my many years of prayers for a wife and mother. And she's been a really, really super good mom for Madison. I've done a lot of things that I'm not that proud of. I've hurt a lot of people, caused a lot of pain. But through all that, when everything was just falling apart, you know, and I turned to God, He was right there. He pursued me all through those years. God's grace covered all that. I certainly didn't deserve it, but He did it for me anyway. Why would He do that? Why would He do it for anybody? It's just because He loves us, you know. That's a love that I can't comprehend and I can't understand. My identity now is identified with Jesus and who I am in Him. You know, is everything perfect now? No. You know, gosh, I still struggle with so many things. But I know that God's grace is enough.